Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today's video is going to be the New Year Booktuber tag that Jessin from Jessin Reads Romance put together. She created this tag and she filmed it, and I loved the questions, I loved her answers. I've seen Sam also did this video. I'll have hers linked down below as well. And I just love the idea of like reflecting on the year in books and talking about what you want to happen for your reading goals for the next year. So here we go. So the first question that she asked is, what are you most excited about for 2023? And honestly, like, I don't even, this question I think is probably the hardest for me. I think I don't really have like anything specific happening in 2023 that I'm super excited for. What I think I'm most excited for is just the possibility that any new year brings, which is a fresh start, a chance to try again at things, to learn new things, to get better at things, to overcome things, just doing, improving things, you know? So I think my answer for that is a little bit boring, but I'm just looking forward to a fresh start in 2023. I don't really have any travel plans. I don't really have anything on the horizon specifically to look forward to. I'm just excited for a new year and new choices, new experiences, and hopefully a great time. Okay, so the next question is, do you have a Goodreads challenge goal, and why that number? So I do. I always do a Goodreads challenge goal. That's where I track all of my reading with star ratings and reviews, and I started doing the Goodreads challenge, I think 2018 was the first year that I did it, and I had just come off of a little bit of like an extended period of time where I wasn't reading much at all, and I think that was the year I found some Sarah J. Maas books, and I just reignited my love of reading. No, it was Leigh Bardugo. It was the Six of Crows. That was when I first read that. And to this day, I still love Leigh Bardugo in those books. But those books really inspired me to pick up books and read again when I had kind of like let myself get into a reading slump for a few years, and then I just kind of didn't read much at all. So I set my Goodreads goal that first year for 25 books, and I think I read like 50. And then the next year I thought, okay, I did really good. I'm going to do 50 books. And I ended up reading even more than that. And then the next year, I think I may have done like 75 or 100. Anyway, each year I kind of increased it a little bit until I got to 100, which is what it's been set at for the last few years. And of course, you know, I've always exceeded 100 books since I set it at that, because the longer that I am reading, and specifically the longer that I have like a bookish presence online where I'm reading, reviewing, talking about books, I tend to read more because I enjoy making content and I want to have interesting books to talk about. So the most books that I read was last year, 2021, and I think I read like 270. And this year I read much less. I think I've just barely cracked 200. So, I mean, like, not much less. But I feel like this year I was, towards the end of the year, I started to be much more intentional about the books that I picked up. And I was looking for a specific feeling and not necessarily going off of what I thought I liked or what I saw other people liking, which is sort of what I feel like I was doing before. So I was really happy with how I ended up picking books for the last half of the year. Even if they didn't end up working out for me, I picked them specifically because I thought, this intrigues me. I'm curious about this. I want to see how this relationship plays out, or I want to see how this fantasy world is built or developed, or how this author's going to tell a mystery. Like, I wanted to have like that type of reading experience. And once I made that shift from trope to looking for a certain type of reading experience, like, my reading enjoyment like skyrocketed. It went like super, super high. So I think that by reading less this year and being more intentional about the books that I picked up in the last half of the year was a really good thing for me, and I want to carry that over into 2023. So I am going to set a Goodreads goal, but it's only going to be 100 books, because I think that's easy peasy, you know? Like, even if I read half as much as I read this year, I could still easily do that. And my whole thing with a Goodreads goal now is just to have some type of accountability to continue reading books, you know, to continuously be picking them up instead of getting drawn into just scrolling online or, you know, watching pointless TV. Like, I don't ever really watch TV. I really actually struggle to sit and watch TV or movies unless it's something I'm really interested in or the person I'm with really wants me to watch it. because it's just not my preferred form of media. It's hard for me to just sit there and watch something. Sitting and reading feels different for my brain, and that's something that I really enjoy doing. So anyway, that was a long ramble. Yes, I have a Goodreads goal. I'm setting it at 100. That's what it's been set at for the last 2 years, and I'm going to carry it over into the next year because I want the Goodreads goal to be attainable. I don't really find a need to set it super high because at that point I'm not reading the way I want to read, which is thoughtfully and sort of taking my time and savoring books a little bit more than I did last year. That's something also that I wanted to carry over into 2023 is this year I started taking my time with books and savoring them more, and instead of trying to just like rush through them, because that is not the type of reader that I am, and it's not what I am good at as far as like making content. I'm not your girl for 100 trope recommendations. There are so many booktubers out there that make excellent content like that. I am not one of them. I feel like I have strengths at breaking books down and talking about them and discussing them and analyzing them. And that's what I want to focus more on in 2023. And I think that I really started to do that, really grow into that in 2022. And I'm actually quite proud of that and happy about it. So, okay, next question. Okay, so the next one is list 3 5-star predictions. So I know that both Jesson and Sam mentioned this, and I'm going to mention it as well, but Powerless by Elsie Silver. I am positive this is going to be 5 stars. I have loved every single Elsie Silver book I've read, and I don't see this being any different. So I'm going to go ahead and just say I'm pretty sure this is going to be a 5-star read for me. Another book that I am positive will be 5 stars is Score, the next book in Kennedy Ryan's Hollywood Renaissance series. That comes out next year. The title hasn't been revealed yet or anything, but she did mention it should be in like the first half of the new year. So I'm 1000% sure that's going to be a 5-star read. Like, literally, I think I've only given maybe 2 Kennedy Ryan books less than 5 stars. And I just adore her work. It hits me emotionally. My heart, brain feels everywhere. So I am 1000% sure I'm going to give that book 5 stars. Okay, so now the next book that I think will be a 5-star prediction. Now this one is a little tricky for me, but I think it could be Scarlett Peckham's new book. Comes out in the spring. I have such high hopes for that one. I loved The Ray Kess with my whole heart and soul. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I so badly want to love this, so I think this one could be 5 stars for me. I really think it could be. I think it could be. And the other one I'm going to do 4. I'm sorry. The other one that I think is going to be 5 stars for me is Sarah MacLean's new book. I adore Sarah MacLean. Her writing, again, is another one of those authors that just really hits me. It just speaks to me. I love how she tells her stories. And I have had fewer 5-star books with her. I mean, I still enjoy her books a ton. Then, like, you know, she's not quite at the Kennedy Ryan level for me, but she's way, way up there. But I have really enjoyed this series, and I feel like each book has gotten better. So I have really high hopes that this one is going to be 5 stars for me. Okay, the next question is, what genre, subgenre, or trope do you want to read more of? So, okay, something I mentioned in one of my other videos, something that I really want to read more of is adult fantasy. Not necessarily adult fantasy romance. I really, really want to deep dive into adult fantasy in 2023. There are so many. I've already started collecting some physical copies of the books that I really want to read. There are so many great authors I keep hearing about. I do keep an eye on fantasy recommendation videos on BookTube. Like, there are a few booktubers that I follow that just talk about fantasy books, and on TikTok as well. And I am just like dying to sink my teeth into them. So that's a genre I really want to explore, is just adult fantasy for sure. Another thing that I really want to try and read more of is I really want to get back to reading more historical romances, and not just from authors that I know and love, like Joanna Shupe, Lorraine Heath, Sarah MacLean. You know, like, those are authors that I'm always going to pick up their new books. Mary Bellog, I'm going to pick up her new book. You know, I want to really dive into historical romance and find some undiscovered gems, maybe not within the genre, but undiscovered for me. So I'm really excited. I really want to focus hard on historical romance in 2023, but specifically I want to find unknowns. I want to find the gems, the rare books that just like hit me, speak to me through all the decades, you know, like from the 70s to today. I really am very, very excited about getting back in and really sort of doing a deep dive into historical romance. Something else, a subgenre that I really want to try and read more of is actually and I hesitate to say this because I have not had a ton of success at finding really excellent dark romance authors for me specifically. I have a few, Sophie Lark really does it well, but some of her books are kind of on the lighter end. Pam Godwin, I will always read everything she writes 100%. She's the dark romance queen. I adore her books in every sense of the word every single time. And I have sort of like started to dip my toes into other dark romance authors, that the ones that aren't like on TikTok front and center, because those books, those authors never ever work for me. That is not the type of dark romance that I like. I want dark romance that you can really like peel back the layers of and see and explore the psyche of these characters and why they're acting the way they do. And I really want to read and experience things that maybe make me question morality a little bit more than I have. I want to have that type of a reading experience with dark romance. And so far, I've really struggled to find an author who will write that for me, other than Pam Godwin. Like, if I could put an author poster child for that type of reading experience for me, it's Pam Godwin. And I really want to find, I know I'm not going to find anything exactly like her, but I want a type of reading experience that has me really questioning things and isn't just set up for shock value, I want there to be intention behind the dark elements. I want there to be intention behind the behavior of the characters. I really hope to find some great dark romance in the next year. Okay, the next question is, what trope do you think will be the most popular in 2023? So I feel like this trope is already really popular, but I sort of have this feeling that we're going to see a big boom in sports romances. I feel like it's obviously a well-loved trope. All of them are. But I think we've seen a big, heavy emphasis on fantasy romance and dark romance, and specifically like age gaps, types of things like that. And I really feel like sports romance is just about ready to hit and just like get even higher than it already is. Okay, so the next one is name 3 bookish goals for the year. So something that I really want to do, one of my bookish goals, is to stick to my 12 recommendations from 12 friends. I posted this on Instagram. I asked on Instagram. I got some great recommendations. Last year, I had a TBR video about books that you recommended to me, and I didn't do so great at those. I didn't do so great. I only read 4 out of 12, y'all. I did terribly. So I'm going to try again this year. I went and asked on Instagram only because I do more daily content over there on my Instagram. Like, I'm posting to my stories like every single day. And I feel like I have some really great books in that 12 books by 12 friends, so I definitely want to do that. Another bookish goal that I have is I want to really try and figure out exactly what causes pacing issues in books for me specifically. A lot of times I'll be reading a book and that is one element where I kind of struggle to pinpoint exactly what the pacing element is that is breaking apart for me. So I really want to focus on that and really figure out what pacing works for me. How do authors do it? Who are the authors that do it really well for me personally in romance? I think that will be kind of interesting to like study and try and pay attention to that. And I love pacing. I love the way that authors can write their stories that get you drawn in. And I feel like there's a certain element of that for me in some authors that is a bit undefinable. I haven't quite figured out how they do that, and I want to try and figure out how they do that in the next year. I just think that will be interesting and fun. And another bookish goal that I have, this is one that Jessin mentioned, which I am also hopping on hers, is I want to read all of Lisa Kleypa's backlist. I also saw Rachel Reads and Sings did the templates on Instagram for Lisa Kleypa's backlist, and there were a surprising lot of them that I hadn't read yet, so I want to explore that and read her complete backlist. I think I can do that for sure. Okay, the next question is name 3 personal goals for the year. So something that I definitely want to do more of in the new year is cook more at home. I feel like in this year, 2022, I had a lot of health issues. I had a lot of work when I was well enough and I wasn't in bed. I was working, and I really dropped the ball with like cooking meals for my family a lot, which kind of devastates me. I kind of pride myself on, making a home and making dinner, and I really slacked off on that because I was either sick or I was working to make up from time off from being sick. And I want to do better at that. I want to get back into making more family dinners for my family. Another thing that I really want to focus on, a personal goal, is I want to work less. I have really been overwhelmed with my work for a few years, for many years, and I want to try and intentionally take a step back. Intentionally take a step back and work less, so I'm not always working around the clock, which is what I do now. So that one is going to take a lot of planning, and it's going to take a lot of like careful execution, and I feel a little vulnerable mentioning that because it's such like a huge part of who I am and what I do. My sculpture business, Tumble Creatures, I love and adore it. So the idea of working less kind of scares me a little bit, but it's something that I feel like I need to do, and I think it would be good for me and my family. So, and then last goal is, I mean, this is kind of tough because, like, I really try to prioritize things that are growth oriented, things that are going to help me grow. So, a personal goal that I have is I want to spend more time training my dogs for, like, the canine good citizen. Like, both of my sweet, beautiful babies have these little tics that are just like behavior issues that aren't dangerous, but they're just like a little irritating, and I feel like if we were constantly practicing, not constantly, but if I was a bit more diligent about how I trained them, and then they wouldn't like have those little issues that are an annoyance to other members of my family who maybe don't enjoy having giant black dogs all over the house. So that's something I want to do, is I want to work on more dog training, maybe consider getting into dog sports with them, or for sure at least working on the canine good citizen for Cosmo for sure, and maybe starting Wanda on that too. So okay, so the last one is, what do you want to leave behind in 2022? So this one I thought a lot about, and I think something that I personally want to leave behind regarding my booktube channel is I really want to let go of the idea that I have to make a certain amount of content, that I have to make a certain type of content that is popular or other people are doing, or something that's getting a lot of views. And I really want to let go of any type of focus on numbers, either subscriber numbers or views or anything like that. You know, I really want to just put that behind me, because truly this channel started as an outlet for me. I wanted a chance to talk about books that I was reading. I wanted a hobby where I could sort of feel this like self-expression and just find joy in talking about books, because I didn't have anybody to talk to about them. And over time, there were times when it's really been something where I've been very focused on the numbers. I've been very focused on what's going to get views. I need to read these books for these videos. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep this channel something that is fun for me, because I truly believe that if I'm enjoying making the videos, if I'm enjoying reading the books that I'm reading, you will enjoy my content. I mean, like, maybe not everybody in the world, obviously, but the people who like me, they're going to like that content more than if it's something that I'm doing to be like creative, or, you know, like, I just feel like authenticity is more valuable than any type of gimmick for the people who watch me, because I'm a bit of a dork and I don't do cool stuff. I can only be myself, and that's it. But I want to let go of any type of like big focus on things that just don't matter. You know, I want to just focus on the process and making the content, and whatever happens with subscribers or views happens. I want to make videos that I'm excited about. I want to read books that I'm excited about. Something I want to leave behind regarding like the book community, I really would love it, and this is something I need to work on too. I would really love if people could have more discussions about books and having differing opinions or seeing something in a different way without like hostility or bad feelings. I feel like sometimes when people disagree on books, a lot of times that's taken as like a personal attack. And I get it, because the books we connect with the most mean the most to us personally. And someone else will pick up that book and they'll read it, and they won't have our history. And something about that book rubs them the wrong way, because all books literally are full of flaws. It just depends on, are we going to be able to see it? Or is there something else in there that's compelling us enough that we are blind to the faults and we only see the things that we're invested in, you know? And I feel like it can be hard to hear somebody really rail against a book that means something deeply to you. A book that you see yourself in, it's hard to hear people talk negatively about that. And so I feel like something I really want, or that I really hope the book community, viewers, content creators as a whole can try and do, myself included, is to not let that affect like personal feelings towards people, you know? Because just because you like different books than me, it doesn't mean I can't be your friends. It doesn't mean that I don't like you. It doesn't mean that we can't get along and bond over other things. I want there to be more room for open discussions and more room for talking about, well, this is why I didn't like this book, this is why it didn't work for me, other than just it was boring, you know. And like I don't even want to say that because I don't want to police how people read books, but that's, I feel like, an area where feelings can get hurt if somebody just writes it off and says it was boring. If you can specifically tell me maybe why you felt a certain way about it, like that's where I feel like we can have good discussions. But anyway, that's something I hope we can leave behind. I also really hope, I hesitated to mention this, I really hope we can overcome this idea that romance equals sex. I think that so often I hear commentary from bookish people in the book community when someone asks for a book that is either low steam or no steam, and their response is, well, why are they even reading romance? Why do you want to read romance if you don't want sex in it? And I really don't like that. Like that grinds my gears in a really hard way because, for one, ace people exist, and two, people with sexual trauma or sexual abuse or sexual assault, they exist, and they may not want to read that. There may be a very valid reason why someone is seeking books with low or no steam, and it has nothing to do with romance. Romance and sex are not always included together. If they are for you, that's wonderful. But let's not generalize and say that if you don't want steam or you want lower steam, that's not romance, because that's not true. Or something else that bothers me is when they say, well, that's YA. It's not. Let's not do that. Let's not judge. Let's specifically not judge something that is so deeply personal to someone who had, you know, this feeling of safety that they could say, hey, I would like a book that had less steam, and the response they get is, why are you even wanting to read romance? That's not romance. Like, I don't like that attitude one bit. Let's keep this community, this romance community, which focuses so much on people, whoever they are, finding love in whatever way they can. Let's keep it free of that type of judgment. That's what I really want to see gone. Alright, I had a lot to say. I didn't expect this video to be so long, y'all. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will tag some friends who I would love to hear their responses on this. And thank you, Jessen, for creating this tag. It was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed answering it, and I'll see y'all in my next video.